Captain Daeho Kim stood on the bridge of the Morning Star and watched the stars pass by through the viewport. 3,000 people lived on his ship. Men, women, children, all of them traveling to a new home on New Seoul Station. It was supposed to be a simple trip. Safe. Peaceful. Daeho had been a ship captain for 15 years. He knew space could be dangerous, but humanity had been part of the Galactic Council for 3 generations now. Things were different. Better. Wars were rare. Trade routes were protected. The galaxy had rules. "Captain, we're picking up something on sensors," said the navigation officer. Her name was Hana, and she looked worried. Daeho walked over to her station. "What is it? A ship?" "No, 3 ships, big ones. They just appeared out of FTL right in front of us." Hana's fingers moved quickly across her console. "They're not responding to our hails." Daeho felt his stomach tighten. The Morning Star was a civilian transport. They had no weapons, no shields worth mentioning. If someone wanted to hurt them, there was nothing he could do to stop it. "Keep trying to contact them," Daeho said. He kept his voice calm. People were counting on him. "Send out our identification codes. Let them know we're a civilian vessel." Down in the medical bay, Dr. Ji-won Park was teaching her daughter Sumi how to bandage a cut properly. Sumi was 7 years old and wanted to be a doctor like her mother. Her younger sister Haeun, only 5, sat nearby and played with a stuffed animal. "You have to wrap it tight, but not too tight," Ji-won explained. She smiled as Sumi's small hands worked carefully on the practice dummy. "That's good. Very good." Ji-won had left Earth to give her daughters a better life. New Seoul Station was on the frontier, where the air was clean and there was room to grow. Her husband Min-seok had gone ahead 6 months earlier to set up their new home. They would see him in just 2 more days. The ship suddenly shook. Just a little, but enough to make Ji-won grab the table. "Mommy." Haeun looked up with wide eyes. "It's okay, sweetie," Ji-won said. But her heart was beating fast. On the bridge, Daeho stared at the screen in disbelief. The ships in front of them had opened fire. A warning shot had passed just meters from the Morning Star's hull. "They're Velthar," Hana said. Her voice shook. "Empire warships, the Velthar Empire." Everyone in the galaxy knew about them. They were warriors. Conquerors. They had destroyed dozens of other species and taken their worlds. But they had never attacked humans before. There was no reason. No conflict, nothing. Daeho's communication panel lit up. Finally, they were responding. A face appeared on the screen. Not human. The Velthar looked like a cross between a lizard and an insect. Its skin was dark red and its eyes were black and cold. "Human vessel," the Velthar said. Its voice was harsh. "You will stop your engines. You will prepare to be boarded. Your passengers will be transferred to our ships. This is Captain Daeho Kim of the civilian transport Morning Star," Daeho said. He tried to keep his voice steady. "We are in neutral space. We are not carrying anything illegal. We are just colonists traveling to New Seoul Station." "You misunderstand," the Velthar said. "We are not asking. The Empire requires labor assets. Your passengers are now property of the Velthar Empire. Slaves. They wanted to take 3,000 people and make them slaves. I can't let you do that," Daeho said. The Velthar made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You cannot stop us." Daeho looked around his bridge, at Hana and the others. They were all looking at him, waiting. 3,000 people were depending on what he said next. "No," Daeho said clearly. "You will not take my people." The Velthar's face twisted. "Then you will die." The screen went black. "Captain," Hana shouted. "They're charging weapons." "Emergency broadcast," Daeho ordered. "Send everything to the Galactic Council. Send it to Earth. Send it everywhere. Show them what's happening here." The Morning Star's cameras turned on. They recorded everything. The 3 Velthar warships moving into position, their weapons glowing with power. And then the first shot. It hit the Morning Star's engine section. The ship shook like it was being torn apart. Alarms screamed. People screamed. Ji-won grabbed her daughters and pulled them close. "It's going to be okay," she whispered. But she knew it wasn't. She had seen the damage reports on her medical console. The ship was dying. "I love you both so much," Ji-won said. Sumi and Haeun held on to her tight. The second shot hit the passenger sections. The third hit the bridge. Captain Daeho Kim died at his post, still trying to save his ship. Dr. Ji-won Park died holding her daughters. 3,000 people died in those few minutes. 847 of them were children. The Velthar warships waited to make sure there were no survivors. Then they left. They sent a message to the Galactic Council explaining what happened. The human ship had been in Velthar space. It had refused legal orders. The Empire had acted within its rights. It was a lie. But the Velthar didn't care. The video from the Morning Star reached Earth 6 hours later. Every human with access to a screen watched it. They saw Captain Deho refuse to give up his people. They saw the Velthar attack. They heard the screams. They saw everything. Admiral Hyunwoo Choi was at Earth's 3rd Defense Fleet headquarters when the message came through. He was an old man now, but he had been a soldier his whole life. He had fought in the resource wars when he was young. He knew what war looked like. He watched the video 3 times. Then he picked up his communication device and called Earth's High Command. "We need to mobilize," Hyunwoo said. "Now." At the Galactic Council, Counselor Mirai Song received the same video. She had spent 15 years building relationships with other species, making friends, creating alliances. She believed in diplomacy, in peace, in talking through problems instead of fighting. She played the video for the entire council. Some of them looked sad. Some looked uncomfortable. The Velthar representative looked amused. "We demand justice," Mirai said. Her voice was shaking with anger. "The Velthar Empire has committed an act of war against humanity. It was a misunderstanding," the Velthar said. "Perhaps compensation can be arranged." Compensation? Mirai couldn't believe what she was hearing. "You murdered 3,000 innocent people." "The council will investigate," said the council leader. "These things take time." "Perhaps 18 months, Mirai stood up. 18 months? "These procedures must be followed," the council leader said. "We cannot rush to judgment." Mirai looked around the room. At all the species who called themselves civilized, who claimed to believe in justice, none of them would meet her eyes. "I see," Mirai said quietly. She gathered her things. "I will inform Earth of the council's decision." She left the chamber. Behind her, the council continued their meeting as if nothing important had happened. On Earth, the news spread like fire. Everyone knew someone on the Morning Star, a cousin, a friend, a daughter. The whole planet grieved together, and then Earth went silent. All human ships withdrew from galactic space. All ambassadors came home. Every communication channel shut down. For 72 hours, humanity said nothing. The Galactic Council didn't understand. The Velthar thought the humans were sulking. They would get over it. Everyone always did. That was how the galaxy worked. The strong took what they wanted. The weak accepted it. They didn't understand humans at all. In those 72 hours, President Yoon Ji-han met with every military commander on Earth. She opened files that had been sealed for generations. Weapons that humanity had promised to never use again. Strategies too terrible to speak about. "They think we're weak," President Yoon-ji said. "They think we'll accept their justice, their compensation, their rules." General Sang-hoon Lee, the oldest soldier in the room, spoke carefully. "If we do this, there's no going back. The galaxy will see what we really are." "Good," President Yoon-ji said. "Let them see." She signed the orders. Protocol Nightfall was active. Humanity was going to war. The streets of every human city were quiet. Not the normal quiet of night. This was different. Heavier. It was the quiet that came before a storm. Yuna Bay stood in front of her apartment window and looked out at the city below. Seoul was dark. Most of the lights were off. People stayed in their homes. They watched their screens. They waited. Yuna's entire family had been on the Morning Star. Her mother, her father, her little brother Junho, who was only 6 years old. All of them going to start a new life. All of them dead now. She touched the glass. It was cold. On her screen, a message appeared. President Yoon Ji-han was about to speak. Yuna sat down to watch. President Yoon-ji's face appeared. She looked tired, older than she had looked just days before. But her eyes were hard, determined. "My fellow humans," she began. "You have all seen what happened to the Morning Star. You have seen our people murdered in cold space. You have seen the cruelty of the Velthar Empire." She paused, took a breath. "I went to the Galactic Council. I asked for justice. They offered us meetings, investigations, processes that would take years. They offered us money to make us forget." The Velthar representative laughed at our pain. Yuna felt her hands curl into fists. "The galaxy has shown us what they value," President Yoon-ji continued. "They value order over justice. Process over action. They value peace more than they value our lives. So I am here to tell you this. We reject their justice. Humanity will have its own. The president's image was replaced by a symbol. 2 crossed swords behind a shield. The symbol of United Earth Forces. I am activating Protocol Nightfall, President Yoonji said. Every person with military training is being recalled to service. Every shipyard will begin wartime production. Every resource will be directed to a single purpose. The Velthar Empire wanted to see if humans would fight back. We will show them the answer. Yuna felt something break inside her chest. Not breaking apart. Breaking open, like a door she didn't know was locked. We did not want this war, the president said. But they have given us no choice. To the galaxy watching this broadcast, hear me now. If you shed human blood, there will be consequences. And those consequences will be terrible. The broadcast ended. Yuna's communication device buzzed. A message from the government. They were asking for volunteers, engineers, doctors, anyone who could help. Anyone who wanted to help, Yuna stood up. She had been an accountant before. Numbers and reports and boring meetings. But her family was gone, and someone had to pay for that. She opened her communication device and signed up. Across Earth, millions did the same. General Sang-hoon Lee walked through the corridors of United Earth Forces headquarters. Soldiers saluted as he passed. Young faces, old faces, all of them ready. He had been a general for 40 years. He had seen war up close. The resource wars had taught him what humans could do to each other when they were desperate. When they were angry. When they wanted revenge, it had been terrible. Weapons that killed millions. Strategies that left planets burning. Both sides had done things that still gave him nightmares. That's why those weapons had been locked away. That's why humanity had promised to never use them again. They had learned their lesson. They had become better, but the galaxy didn't know about those weapons. The galaxy thought humans were soft. Trading partners, colonists, peaceful neighbors. General Sang-hoon reached the command center. Admiral Hyunwoo was already there, studying star charts. Commander Jin Seo-kwan stood nearby. She was young but dangerous. She led the Nightfall Division, the special forces unit that did things nobody talked about. The Velthar have mobilized their fleet, Hyunwoo said. They're expecting us to attack their border worlds. Let them expect that, Sang-hoon said. He pointed to the star chart. This is not going to be a normal war. We're not going to fight them the way they expect. Jin Seo smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. What are we going to do? We're going to teach them what total war means, Sang-hoon said. He pulled up a file on the central display. The Doctrine of Ashes. It was a strategy humans had developed during the resource wars but never fully used. Too brutal, too complete. It wasn't about winning battles. It was about destroying everything your enemy needed to survive. The Velthar Empire is big, Sang-hoon explained. Hundreds of worlds. Trillions of beings. We can't beat them in a fair fight. So we won't fight fair. He zoomed in on different sections of the map. Their empire runs on fear and logistics. Take away either one and it falls apart. Hyunwoo, your fleets will engage them in open battle. Make them think that's the real war. Keep their attention focused on you. Hyunwoo nodded. And while they're focused on me? Jinseo, your Nightfall Division will do what they do best, Sang-hoon said. You'll go into Velthar space. Not to fight. To break things. Communication relays. Supply depots. Water treatment facilities. Everything they need to hold their empire together. Jinseo studied the map. They'll call it terrorism. They'll call it whatever they want, Sang-hoon said. We'll call it justice. What about the other species? Hyunwoo asked. The ones the Velthar conquered. The slaves. We help them, Sang-hoon said. Give them weapons. Give them hope. Let them fight their own battles. The Velthar Empire has made a lot of enemies over the years. Time to remind them of that. It was a good plan. A terrible plan. But it was the only plan that would work. In a laboratory deep under the Himalayan mountains, engineer Dongmin Park stood in front of a weapon that shouldn't exist. He had built it anyway. It was called a kinetic hammer. Simple concept. Take a big rock. Add engines. Point it at a planet. Drop it from orbit. The impact would release more energy than any bomb. During the resource wars, both sides had considered using kinetic weapons. But they never did. Too destructive. Too permanent. You couldn't rebuild a planet with a crater the size of a continent. It's ready. Dongmin said to his assistant. We could destroy a planet with this. Will we? His assistant asked. I don't know, Dongmin said. But if the Velthar think we might, maybe they'll think twice. That was the thing about terrible weapons. Sometimes you didn't have to use them. You just had to make people believe you would. At the Galactic Council, Counselor Mirai Song returned to her seat. The other species stared at her. They had all heard President Yunji's speech. They knew what was coming. The council urges restraint, the council leader said. War helps no one. Where was the council when the Morning Star was attacked? Mirai asked. Where was your restraint then? The Velthar have agreed to pay compensation. Whoa, we don't want their money. Mirai's voice echoed through the chamber. We want justice. We want the Velthar to understand that you cannot murder 3,000 humans and walk away. The Velthar representative stood up. He was tall and covered in dark red scales. His eyes were cold. Your species is young, weak. You have been part of the council for only 3 generations. You know nothing of real power. The Empire has conquered species for 1,000 years. What makes you think you can stand against us? Mirai looked at him for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was not a happy smile. You're about to find out, she said. She gathered her papers and walked out. Behind her, the council erupted in debate. Arguments, threats, promises of sanctions against Earth if they started a war. Mirai didn't care anymore. The galaxy had shown its true face. When it mattered, when justice was needed, they had chosen politics over principle. Humanity would remember that. Back on Earth, in a small apartment in Seoul, Yunabei packed a bag. She had been assigned to a medical support unit. They were shipping out in 2 days. Going to the frontier. Close to the war. She looked around her apartment one last time. All her things, her life, it seemed so small now. So meaningless compared to what had been taken from her. On her desk was a picture of her family. Taken just before they left for the Morning Star, everyone was smiling, happy, excited for their new life. Yuna picked up the picture and put it in her bag. I'm going to make them pay, she whispered. I promise, all across Earth the same scene was repeating. People packing. People leaving. People preparing for war. The shipyards worked day and night. New ships taking shape. Weapons being loaded. Soldiers training. Humanity had been peaceful for 3 generations. But they hadn't forgotten how to fight. That knowledge was still there. In their books. In their history. In their bones. The Velthar Empire had made a terrible mistake. They had attacked humans expecting them to be weak. They were about to learn the truth. Humans weren't weak. They were just careful about showing their strength. But when you pushed them far enough, when you hurt them badly enough, they would show you exactly what they were capable of. And it would be the last lesson you ever learned. 4 months had passed since the Morning Star burned in the dark. Admiral Hyunwoo Choi stood on the bridge of the ESS Thunderbolt and watched the Velthar fleet approach. 20 enemy warships, big ones, each of them 3 times the size of his flagship. They're hailing us, his communication officer said. Put them through, Hyunwoo said. A Velthar commander appeared on the screen. His scales were marked with symbols of rank. Battle scars covered his face. He looked confident, amused even. Human Admiral, the Velthar said. You have come far from your little blue planet. But this is where your journey ends. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick. Hyunwoo smiled. I don't think so. You have 12 ships. We have 20. Your technology is inferior. Your experience is limited. This will be over in minutes. Then let's begin, Hyunwoo said. The Velthar commander's face twisted in anger. The screen went black. All ships battle formation, Hyunwoo ordered. Remember the plan. We're not here to win. We're here to keep them busy. His officers looked at him strangely. Not here to win? But they trusted him. They moved into position. The Velthar fleet charged forward. Their weapons blazed. Energy beams cut through space. Missiles streaked toward the human ships. The human fleet scattered. They were fast. Faster than the Velthar expected. The Earth ships dodged and weaved. They fired back. Not as much firepower as the Velthar, but accurate, precise. One Velthar ship exploded. Then another. But Hyunwoo wasn't trying to destroy the enemy fleet. He was trying to tie them up. Keep them here. Keep them focused on this battle while the real war happened somewhere else. Somewhere the Velthar weren't looking. 600 light-years away, Commander Jinseo Quan floated in the darkness between stars. Her stealth ship was invisible, silent, completely hidden from every sensor the Velthar had. Behind her ship, 5 more just like it waited. "Target is ahead," her pilot whispered. "Velthar communication relay. Big one." Jinseo studied the station through her view screen. It was massive. A huge structure that bounced FTL signals across the Empire. Thousands of Velthar worked there. It was also heavily defended. Weapons platforms, fighter patrols, energy shields. The Velthar thought it was safe. Deep in their own territory, protected. They were wrong. "Deploy the drones," Jinseo ordered. Tiny machines launched from her ship, so small they looked like space dust. They drifted toward the relay station. The Velthar sensors didn't even notice them. The drones attached themselves to the station's hull. Then they started cutting. Not with lasers or torches, with something more subtle. Nanomachines. Tiny robots that ate through metal molecule by molecule. It took 3 hours. Jinseo waited patiently. Then the relay station just fell apart. The hull opened. Air rushed out. Systems failed. The whole thing became a cloud of wreckage in seconds. "Target destroyed," Jinseo said. "Move to the next one." The Velthar wouldn't even know what happened until it was too late. They would try to investigate. By then, Jinseo's team would be hitting another target 3 systems away. This was the invisible war. The war the galaxy didn't see on their news channels. But it was the war that mattered. At a small moon called Velthar Station 7, a different kind of war was happening. The moon was a supply depot. Food, water, medicine, equipment, everything the Velthar military needed flowed through this place. It was supposed to be secure. Automated defenses, no weak points, but the Velthar had made one mistake. They used slave labor to run the depot, and slaves could be convinced to help their enemies. A young human named Tai Hyung Nam landed his small ship on the moon's dark side. He was a pilot. His parents had died on the Morning Star. Now he flew missions for the Nightfall Division. He met his contact near an air recycling plant. She wasn't human. She was one of the Kthari, a species the Velthar had conquered 50 years ago. Her people were used as laborers throughout the Empire. "You have the codes?" Taehyung asked. The Kthari female nodded. She was scared. If the Velthar caught her helping humans, they would kill her entire family. But she was also angry, tired of being a slave. "The security system will shut down at midnight," she whispered. "You will have 15 minutes. "No more. That's enough," Taehyung said. He handed her a small device. "When this is over, use this. It's a beacon. Human ships will find you. We'll get you somewhere safe." Her eyes filled with tears. "You would do that for us?" "The Velthar are our enemy," Taehyung said. "Not you. Not your people. We're here to break their empire, and we're going to free everyone they've enslaved." At midnight, the security system shut down exactly as promised. Taehyung and his team moved fast. They didn't destroy the depot. That would have been too obvious. Instead, they poisoned it. They added chemicals to the water supply. Not enough to kill anyone, just enough to make soldiers sick, weak, unable to fight. They tampered with the food stores. Again, not obvious. Just small changes that would cause equipment failures. Weapons that wouldn't fire. Ships that wouldn't start. They hacked into the computer systems and changed inventory records. Made it look like there was more supplies than really existed. When the Velthar military tried to use those supplies, they would find nothing. By the time the security system came back online, Taehyung and his team were gone. The Velthar wouldn't notice the sabotage for weeks. By then, it would be too late. Back on Earth, engineer Dongmin Park worked on something new. Something that would change the war. "It's called a swarm system," he explained to General Sang-hoon. "Thousands of small drones working together like a hive mind. Each one is cheap, easy to make, but together they're deadly." He showed the general a demonstration. A single drone was no bigger than a human hand. Weak, fragile, but when 1,000 of them worked together, they could tear apart a warship. "The Velthar build big ships," Dongmin said. "Powerful weapons, thick armor, but armor doesn't help against a swarm. The drones slip through cracks, target weak points. They're too small and too many to stop." "How long before we can deploy these?" Sang-hoon asked. "We're already making them," Dongmin said. 1 million drones per week. "In 2 months, we'll have enough to equip the entire fleet." Sang-hoon smiled. This was how humans fought. Not with honor. Not with fair play. With intelligence. Creativity. They looked at a problem and found solutions the enemy would never expect. The Velthar had been fighting wars the same way for 1,000 years. The same tactics. The same strategies. They were good at it, but humans had spent 10,000 years fighting each other. They knew every trick, every strategy, every way to hurt an enemy, and now they were going to use all of it. In the Galactic Council chambers, Counselor Mirai Song listened to another species complain about the war. Human forces have violated neutral space, the delegate from the Ferrix Commonwealth said. They attacked a supply convoy passing through our territory. That convoy was carrying weapons to the Velthar military, Mirai said calmly. It was a legitimate target. You're turning the entire galaxy into a war zone. The Velthar did that when they murdered the Morning Star, Mirai replied. We're just finishing what they started. The Velthar representative stood up. He looked less confident than he had 4 months ago. Reports were coming in from all over the Empire. Attacks, sabotage, rebellions. The humans were everywhere and nowhere. They struck without warning and disappeared before anyone could respond. Your species is fighting without honor, the Velthar said. You attack supply lines. You poison food. You turn slaves against their masters. These are not the tactics of warriors. No, Mirai agreed. They're the tactics of humans. And they're working. It was true. The Velthar Empire was starting to crack. Fleet commanders couldn't communicate with each other because the relay stations kept failing. Supply ships arrived empty because someone had stolen their cargo. Soldiers got sick from contaminated water, and worst of all, the conquered species were rising up. All across the Empire, slaves were rebelling. They had weapons now. Human weapons. And they had hope. That was the thing the Velthar didn't understand. You could conquer people. You could force them to work. But you couldn't make them stop hoping for freedom. Intelligence Officer Sora Lim sat in a dark room filled with computers. She had been working for 72 hours straight. Her eyes were red. Her hands shook from too much caffeine. But she had done it. She had cracked the Velthar military codes. General Sang-hoon, she said into her communication device. You need to see this. When the general arrived, Sora showed him what she had found. The entire Velthar command structure laid out like a map. Fleet positions, supply routes, communication protocols, everything, but there was something else. Something more important. The whole empire is controlled from one planet, Sora explained. Veltharic Prime. That's where the Emperor lives. That's where all the high-ranking commanders are. That's where every major decision gets made. Why would they do that? Sang-hoon asked. It's a single point of failure. Because they're arrogant, Sora said. They've been in power for 1,000 years. Nobody has ever seriously threatened them. They think they're untouchable. Sang-hoon studied the data. Veltharic Prime was defended by the largest fleet in the galaxy. Getting close would be almost impossible. Almost. Send this to Admiral Hyunwoo, Sang-hoon said. And get Commander Jinseo back here. We need to plan something big. How big? Sora asked. Sang-hoon smiled. It was not a kind smile. 8 months after the Morning Star died, the Velthar Empire was falling apart. Emperor Veltharic sat on his throne and read the reports. They were all bad. Communication networks kept failing. Supply lines were broken. Slave rebellions were spreading across 50 worlds, and human forces were everywhere like a disease he couldn't cure. How many ships have we lost? The Emperor asked. His military advisor bowed low. 347, Your Greatness. Most of them not in battle, sabotage, accidents, mysterious explosions. There are no accidents, the Emperor hissed. The humans are doing this, find them. Kill them. We are trying, Your Greatness. But they are difficult to track. They strike and vanish. We send fleets to one location and they attack somewhere else. It is like fighting ghosts. The Emperor stood up. His red scales caught the light. We have conquered hundreds of species. We have ruled for 1,000 years. Are you telling me we cannot defeat these weak humans? The advisor said nothing. What could he say? The truth was clear. The Velthar were losing. At the Galactic Council, species were arguing again. It had been like this for weeks. Everyone had an opinion about the war. Earth must be stopped, declared the ambassador from the Torvik Union. They are destroying an entire empire. The death toll is in the millions. Counselor Mireille Song stood up slowly. She looked tired. The war had aged her. The Velthar Empire has killed billions over the centuries, Mireille said. Where was the council then? Where was your concern for death tolls when the Velthar were conquering peaceful species and turning them into slaves? That was different. How? Mireille's voice was sharp. How is it different? Because the Velthar are strong and we're supposed to accept their cruelty? Because that's easier than standing up to them? The council chamber went quiet. You want us to stop? Mireille continued. Fine. Convince the Velthar to surrender. Have them return every conquered world. Free every slave. Put their leaders on trial for their crimes. Do that and we'll stop immediately. She sat down. No one responded. They all knew the Velthar would never agree to those terms. Then we will finish what we started, Mireille said. Back on Earth, President Yoon Ji-han was making the hardest decision of her life. General Sang-hoon stood before her with a plan. Operation Nightfall, a direct attack on Veltharic Prime, the heart of the Empire. It's risky, Sang-hoon admitted. The planet is defended by over 400 warships, the best the Velthar have. We would need to commit our entire fleet. If we fail, Earth will be defenseless. What are our chances? Yoonji asked. 20% if we attack directly, Sang-hoon said. 70% if we use the plan Commander Jin Seo proposed. Tell me, Yoonji said. Sang-hoon pulled up a holographic display. It showed Veltharic Prime and the massive fleet defending it. We make them think we're going to attack, Sang-hoon explained. Admiral Hyunwoo will lead every ship we have straight at the planet. The Velthar will pull all their forces back to defend the Emperor. Every ship, every soldier, everything. And then, while they're focused on Hyunwoo's fleet, Commander Jinso will land on the planet with a small team. They'll infiltrate the Imperial Palace, not to kill the Emperor, to show him he's not safe, that we can reach him anywhere. That's the whole plan? Yoonji looked skeptical. Just scare him? It's more than that, Sang-hoon said. Pilot Taehyung will deliver a kinetic strike to an empty region of the planet. A demonstration. We'll show them we could destroy their world but choose not to. The Velthar respect strength. We'll give them a choice. Surrender or lose everything. Yoonji thought about it for a long time. This was a gamble. If it worked, the war would end. If it failed, Earth would be vulnerable and the Velthar would never stop coming. Do it, she finally said. Admiral Hyunwoo Choi stood on the bridge of the ESS Thunderbolt and looked at the fleet assembled around him. Every human warship, every carrier, every destroyer, all of them preparing to jump into FTL and head straight for Veltharic Prime. Beside him stood Yuna Bay. She had requested to be on the flagship when the attack happened. She wanted to see it. The end of the empire that killed her family. Are you scared? Yuna asked. Yes, Hyunwoo admitted. Anyone who says they're not afraid of battle is either a liar or a fool. Fear keeps you sharp, keeps you alive. Do you think we'll win? Hyunwoo looked at the young woman. She had lost so much. They all had. We have to, he said simply. There's no other option. The fleet jumped to FTL. They emerged from hyperspace right on the edge of the Veltharic system. Alarms immediately screamed across every Velthar ship. The Emperor watched from his palace as human ships appeared on his sensors. Hundreds of them. Coming straight for his world. Launch everything, the Emperor ordered. Destroy them all. The Velthar fleet moved to intercept. 400 warships, the largest concentration of military power in the galaxy. They formed a wall between the humans and Veltharic Prime. The battle began. It was chaos. Weapons fire filled space. Ships exploded. Drones swarmed. Human vessels danced through the defensive lines. They were outnumbered but not outmatched. Engineer Dongmin's swarm technology turned the battle into a nightmare for the Velthar, but the humans were still losing. Slowly, ships were going down. Lives were being lost. On the bridge, Hyunwoo watched the tactical display. Pull back, he ordered. Make them chase us. The human fleet retreated. The Velthar followed, eager to finish them off. They pulled away from the planet, away from their defensive positions, exactly as planned. While everyone was watching the battle, a single small ship slipped through the chaos. It was invisible to sensors, silent, completely undetected. Inside, Commander Jin Seo checked her equipment one more time. Behind her, 5 other soldiers did the same. They were the best Earth had. Special forces, trained for impossible missions. Approaching the planet, the pilot whispered. No one has spotted us. Take us down, Jin Seo ordered. The ship dropped into Veltharic Prime's atmosphere. It was a beautiful planet. Blue oceans, green continents, cities that stretched for hundreds of miles. At the center of the largest city was the Imperial Palace. That's where Jinseo was going. They landed in a park just outside the palace walls. In the middle of the night. No guards around because all the defenses were in space fighting the human fleet. Move fast, Jinseo said. We have 30 minutes. Her team ran through the empty streets. They had studied the palace layout for weeks. They knew every corridor, every security system, every patrol route. Getting in was surprisingly easy. The Velthar had never expected anyone to reach their capital world. All their defenses faced outward. Jinseo and her team reached the throne room. The Emperor was there with his advisors watching the battle in space on huge view screens. Your Greatness, the humans are retreating, an advisor said. We are winning. Good, the Emperor growled. Destroy them all. Show them what happens when you attack innocent civilians. Jinseo's voice echoed through the chamber. Every Velthar spun around. There, standing in the doorway, were 6 humans in combat armor. Weapons ready. The Emperor's guards reached for their weapons. I wouldn't, Jinseo said calmly. She held up a device. This is a dead man's switch. If anything happens to us, a signal goes out, and then something very bad happens to your planet. You are bluffing, the Emperor said. But he didn't sound certain. Am I? Jinseo activated a holographic display. It showed a small spacecraft high above the planet. In its cargo bay was a single massive projectile. A kinetic hammer. That's a solid tungsten rod. 20 tons, moving at 30 kilometers per second. When it hits your planet, it will release the energy of 100 nuclear weapons. The Emperor stared at the display. His scales had gone pale. You cannot, he whispered. You would kill millions. We're not going to hit a city, Jinseo said. Watch. High above, Taehyung-nam sat in his modified stealth fighter. He had volunteered for this mission. One last flight. One last chance to make the Velthar pay for his parents. He checked his coordinates one more time. An empty desert region. No cities, no people. Just sand and rock. Releasing payload. Taehyung said quietly. The kinetic hammer dropped from his ship. It fell like a meteor. Faster and faster. The friction with the atmosphere turned it white hot. It hit the desert with the force of a god's hammer. The explosion was visible from space. A flash of light that turned night into day. The shockwave spread out in a perfect circle. When it was over, there was a crater 50 kilometers wide. In the throne room, everyone watched in silence. The view screens showed the destruction, the power, the terrible, awesome power. That was our warning shot, Jinseo said. We could have dropped that on your palace, on your cities, on every major population center on this planet. We chose not to. Do you understand what that means? The Emperor understood. For the first time in his long life, he felt fear. We can reach you anywhere, Jinseo continued. You are not safe. Your fleet cannot protect you. Your walls cannot stop us. We have shown you mercy today. We will not show it again. She walked forward until she was standing directly in front of the Emperor. Surrender, Jinseo said. End this war. Free every slave in your empire. Stand trial for your crimes. Or we will come back, and next time we will not miss. The Emperor looked around at his advisors, at his guards, at the view screen showing his burning planet. How do I know you will stop if I surrender? He asked. You don't, Jinseo said. 1 year after the Morning Star burned, Yunabei stood in front of a wall covered in names, 3,000 names. Every person who died that day. The memorial was on Earth in the center of Geneva. People came from all over the planet to see it. To remember, Yuna found her family's names, mother, father, little brother Junho. She touched the cold stone where their names were carved. I kept my promise, she whispered. They paid for what they did, but the victory felt hollow. Her family was still gone. The war was over, but the dead would never come back. President Yoon Ji-han stood at a podium next to the memorial. Cameras from every human world recorded her speech. The galaxy was watching too. 1 year ago, we lost 3,000 innocent people, Yoonji began. Her voice was strong but sad. The Velthar Empire attacked them without warning, without mercy. They thought we would accept it. File complaints. Take money as compensation. Move on, she paused. Looked at the wall of names. They were wrong. Humanity showed the galaxy what happens when you push peaceful people too far. We did not want this war. We did not want to become warriors again. But they gave us no choice. The crowd was silent, listening. The Velthar Empire no longer exists, Yunji continued. Their military is scattered. Their leaders are standing trial. The species they enslaved are free. We won this war, but the cost was terrible. Not just for them. For us too, she gestured to the memorial wall. We lost 12,000 soldiers in this war. 12,000 more names to add to our sorrow. They died fighting for justice, for their families, for a galaxy that did not help us when we needed it. Across the former Velthar territory, chaos had replaced order. Dozens of species were suddenly free after centuries of slavery. They didn't know how to govern themselves. They didn't have food, medicine, infrastructure. Some people said humanity should leave them to figure it out. They had won the war. That was enough. But General Sang-Hoon Lee had different ideas. We cannot just break things and walk away, he told his commanders. That's not who we are. We destroyed the Velthar Empire. Now we have a responsibility to help build something better. He called it the Marshall Plan. After an old Earth program from centuries ago, humanity would help rebuild, send supplies, engineers, teachers, not as conquerors. As helpers, it was controversial. Many humans were angry. Why should they help the species that did nothing when the Morning Star was attacked? Why spend resources on strangers? But others remembered what made humanity different. What made them worth saving in the first place. Commander Jinseo Kwan stood on the bridge of a medical ship heading for a former Velthar colony world. Her Nightfall division had changed. They were no longer saboteurs and spies. They were peacekeepers now. Planet ahead, her pilot announced. The Cathari colony. Jinseo remembered the Cathari. They had helped humanity during the war. Risked everything to sabotage Velthar supply lines. Now they were free. But freedom without food and medicine was just a slow death. The ship landed in the capital city. It was a mess. Buildings damaged from the revolution. Hospitals overflowing. No organized government yet. A Cathari female approached Jinseo. It was the same one who had helped Taehyung Nam during the war. She looked tired but hopeful. You came back, the Cathari said. She sounded surprised. We promised we would, Jinseo replied. She gestured to the ship behind her. We brought medical supplies, food, water purification systems, and engineers to help you rebuild. The Cathari's eyes filled with tears. Why, the war is over. You won. You don't need us anymore. This isn't about need, Jinseo said gently. It's about doing what's right. That scene repeated itself across 100 worlds. Human ships arriving with supplies, doctors, teachers, people who wanted to help. It wasn't perfect. There were problems. Some freed species didn't trust humans. Some human soldiers didn't want to help former enemies. But slowly, carefully, things started to improve. At the Galactic Council, everything had changed. Counselor Mirai Song stood before the assembled species. They looked at her differently now. Not with pity, not with amusement. With respect. And fear. Earth proposes new laws, Mirai announced. First, aggressive wars of conquest are illegal. Any species that attacks civilians will face unified sanctions from all council members. There was murmuring. Some species didn't like this. It limited their power. Second, slavery is banned throughout council space. All sentient beings have the right to freedom. More murmuring. Louder this time. Third, the council must act when atrocities occur. No more investigations that take years. No more bureaucracy that protects the powerful. When innocents die, there must be swift justice. The council leader spoke up. These are radical changes. They alter the balance of power in the galaxy. Good, Mirai said. The old balance of power allowed the Velthar to murder 3,000 humans and face no consequences. It allowed slavery and conquest and cruelty. That balance needed to be destroyed. She looked around the chamber, at all the different species. Earth is not asking for your permission. We are telling you how things will be. You can agree and join us in building a better galaxy, or you can oppose us and face the consequences. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Every species voted yes. General Sang-Hoon Lee did something that surprised everyone. He began destroying weapons, the kinetic hammers, the biological weapons, the drone swarms that had turned the tide of the war. All of them dismantled and destroyed. We built these because we had to, Sang-hoon explained to reporters. But now the war is over. These weapons are too dangerous to exist. They made us powerful, but they also made us terrible. What if another enemy appears? A reporter asked. What if you need those weapons again? Sang-hoon smiled sadly. We know how to build them. That knowledge cannot be destroyed. If we ever truly need them again, we can remake them, but I pray we never do. I have seen what these weapons can do. I have seen the bodies. The devastation. No one should have that kind of power. It was a controversial decision. Some people thought it was foolish, but others understood. Humanity was choosing to step back from the edge. To be better than they had to be. Admiral Hyun-woo Choi retired from military service. He was old now. Tired. The war had aged him years in just months. He visited the Morning Star Memorial before leaving Geneva. Found Captain Dae-ho Kim's name on the wall. We got them, Hyun-woo said quietly. Your sacrifice meant something. The galaxy is different now because of what happened to you. He touched the name, then turned and walked away. He had done his duty, fought his last war. Now he wanted to spend whatever time he had left with his family. In peace, Pilot Tae-hyung-nam did not retire. He joined something new that humanity created. The Frontier Defense Coalition. It was an alliance of species committed to protecting the weak. The ones who couldn't defend themselves. Dozens of species joined. They contributed ships, soldiers, resources, but humanity led it. Because humanity had proven they would fight for justice, even when it cost them everything. Taehyung flew patrols along the frontier, protecting trade routes, responding to distress calls. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't exciting. But it mattered. One day he got a call from a colony under attack. Pirates trying to raid a settlement. Taehyung's squadron arrived within the hour. The pirates took one look at the Earth insignia on the ships and fled immediately. They knew what that symbol meant. They knew what humans could do. Yuna Bay eventually left the memorial. She had stood there for hours, remembering, grieving, finally accepting. Her family was gone. But they hadn't died for nothing. The galaxy was better now, safer, more just. She walked through Geneva's streets, saw people from a dozen different species, humans and aliens together, trading, talking, living in peace. This is what her family had wanted, a better future, a place where different species could live together without fear. They hadn't lived to see it, but their deaths had helped build it. Yuna stopped at a park, sat on a bench. For the first time in a year, she felt something other than anger and grief. She felt hope. President Yoon Ji-han's final speech to the galaxy was broadcast everywhere. We did not want to show you this side of ourselves, she said. For 3 generations we tried to be your friends, your partners, your neighbors. We wanted peace, she paused. Let the words sink in. But you taught us that the galaxy only respects strength. So we showed you strength. We showed you what happens when you force the hand of a species that spent 10,000 years learning how to fight. We are not proud of what we did. But we are not ashamed either. It was necessary. Her voice grew harder, colder. Now understand this. We are not your conquerors. We are not the new empire. We are something different. We are the shield for those who cannot defend themselves. We are the sword that falls on those who prey upon the innocent. The Velthar learned this lesson. They shed human blood and the galaxy drowned in the consequences. She leaned forward, looked directly into the camera. Pray you never have to learn it yourselves. The memorial stood in Geneva. A permanent reminder. 3,000 names carved in stone. But it wasn't just a memorial to the dead. It was a warning to the living. Humanity could be the best friend you ever had, kind, generous, creative, willing to help anyone who needed it. But if you hurt them, if you pushed them too far, they would show you a different face. The face that had survived 10,000 years of war against themselves.